Happy summer Sunday morning, St. Andrew's friends. I've always contended that there's a song for everything. This morning, my choice is the second verse of a well-known hymn, O Love That Will Not Let Me Go. O light that followest all my way, I yield my flickering torch to thee. My heart restores its borrowed ray, that in thy sunshine's blaze its day may brighter, fairer be. In summer, we experience the sun's blaze and so come to understand God's light as exploding energy, radiating in all directions, providing the sustenance of life to everything on earth. Even at night, the reflection of that sun breaks up the darkness as gentle moonlight, providing hope when our situation seems bleak and black. Sometimes, light comes to us as an emergency. Sometimes it sparkles with energy so that we can dispel sorrow and injustice. Sometimes it's just the warm glow of campfire embers as we recall past experiences of God's love in our lives. Whatever way you are experiencing God's light today, I invite you to light a candle, to remind yourself of the constancy of God's love and the hope for a brighter future for all.
Welcome to worship at St. Andrew's United Church in Hamilton, Ontario. This service is for Sunday, July the 25th, and we welcome all who are watching online and those watching the following week at 11 a.m. on Cable 14 TV. Cindy Jariga is our music director and is providing musical leadership today. Thank you to Eva Jackson for lighting the Christ candle and to Barbara Sherwood for our reading today. I am Paul Holder, and I will be looking after the services for the next 3 weeks as we await the arrival of our new full-time minister, Reverend Debbie McMillan. For the next 3 weeks, I will be using a series of thought-provoking messages from Philip Gully, from whom I have borrowed before with his kind permission. Gully is an author, speaker, humorist, and a Quaker pastor in Danville, Indiana. The messages I will be using or adapting are from the series he called Things We Are Supposed to Believe, but Maybe Shouldn't. The first message was written just before Christmas, I believe, before COVID. And it includes, we in the book trade would call a spoiler alert. And that spoiler alert is, if your little children are watching with you and you're not ready to have the Santa conversation with them, you might want to listen to this message later on without them. So here we go. Our granddaughter Madeline turned 6 today, and we'll be celebrating with her later in the day. Hopefully, a cake will be involved. I've been avoiding her lately because she's been asking a lot of questions about Santa Claus, and I don't want to be the one to burst her bubble. So Madeline has been asking about Santa Claus, namely, how can he get into her house since they don't have a chimney? Their house does have a furnace vent pipe, which she has seen, and Santa seems way too big to fit down that. Sometimes Santa just uses the front door, my wife, who never lies, told our trusting little granddaughter. Hank wouldn't like that. Hank is their dog, who barks wherever anyone comes in the front door. Santa has it all figured out, I said, joining my wife in the big torrent of falsehoods. Madeline is having her doubts, I can tell, but is too afraid to admit that Santa might not exist for her. That if Santa isn't real, then neither is Christmas. In her mind, if Santa isn't real, there will be no more presents under the tree, no family gatherings, no sock over Papa Papa and Nana's fireplace. No big breakfast with cinnamon rolls. No 2 weeks off of school. No playing with her cousins on Christmas afternoon. Madeline hasn't yet learned one can still have the joy of Christmas without the myths of Christmas. This morning I want to talk about people who still have value even if some of the stories we tell about them aren't true. For example, the story of George Washington cutting down the cherry tree was a made-up story, written by a clergyman named Parson Weems. Even though the story isn't true, it hasn't caused us to stop appreciating George Washington. We've been able to separate the myths told about him from his very real virtues and accomplishments. We are less willing to do this in religion. A fellow pastor recently asked me if I believed Jesus was born of a virgin, and I said, honestly, no. I explained that virgin births were commonly attributed to great spiritual and political leaders, Alexander the Great, Mithra and Mithras, Romulus and Remus, the pharaohs, the Caesars, Buddha, even Mary, the mother of Jesus. Many North Koreans believe that when former President Kim Jong-il was born, a shooting star caused a spontaneous change from winter to summer. I pointed this out to the pastor and suggested that stories about virgin births need to be put in their proper historical and mythological context, but he wouldn't hear of it. He said, if Jesus wasn't born of a virgin, his entire life is a lie and Christianity is false. Right after he said that, I had an inspired response. Most of my inspired responses come to me a week or two after I need them, but this one came right when I needed it. I asked him if he believed in Santa Claus, and he said no. Then I asked him how old he was when he stopped believing in Santa Claus, and he guessed maybe 6 or 7. So, when you stopped believing all the stories about Santa Claus, did you stop celebrating Christmas and tell your parents not to buy you any Christmas presents? No, of course not. But just because I don't believe some of the stories about Jesus, I have to stop being a Christian? Is that what you're telling me? Christianity has nothing to offer me, no beauty, no moral code, no spiritual insight, no community? I know other Christians have the same misgivings I do about some of the Jesus stories, the virgin birth, the miracle stories, the resurrection. They have concluded that while some of Jesus' stories aren't likely historically true, Christianity still has value and still has something important to offer us. But other Christians have said, no, if all the stories about Jesus aren't true, then Christianity is a lie, and I want nothing to do with it. But some of these same people still celebrate Christmas and will tell their children and grandchildren about Santa Claus and still like getting presents, even though they've stopped believing in Santa Claus. My point is this: our customs, our traditions, our religious and cultural heroes still have great value, even if the stories that we tell about them, passed down from generation to generation, the things we're supposed to believe, aren't always historically accurate. I feel sorry for people whose imagination is so lacking that they can't discover the nugget of gold in a beautiful story. I've noticed that they are often the same people who can't be moved by a beautiful song, who can't say to another, I love you, who can't pause and appreciate the flaming beauty of a sunset, who think the value of one's life can be measured in cold, hard cash, who never stop to wonder how many stars there are in the sky. I feel sorry for people whose imagination, curiosity, and humanity are so deficient that they only value what they can touch, spend, or count. I don't celebrate Christmas because Jesus was born of a virgin. I celebrate Christmas because I love the stories about Jesus, whether factual or not. I celebrate Christmas because I believe it's important to elevate and honor the values of Christmas: generosity, peace, goodwill among all people. Beware of those who tell you what you must believe, for soon they will tell you what you must feel, though they sometimes feel nothing.
Good morning. Our Bible reading this morning is from Ephesians chapter 3, verses 14 to 19. The love of Christ. For this reason I fall on my knees before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth receives its true name. I ask God from the wealth of this glory to give you power through the Spirit to be strong in your inner selves. And I pray that Christ will make his home in your hearts through their faith. I pray that you may have your roots and foundation in love, so that you, together with all God's people, may have the power to understand how broad and long, how high and deep is Christ's love. Yes, may you come to know the love, although it can never be fully known, and so be completely filled with the very nature of God.
This is my second message for July the 25th. I have a friend who's colorblind, which I didn't know until his wife went on vacation without him, and he visited our house wearing a bright red shirt with green pants, which would have been fine for Christmas, but it was July. Of course, I made fun of him because that's what guys do to one another. My wife shot me the look. After he left, I said, "Why did you look at me like that?" She said, "He's colorblind. His wife always picks out his clothes, but she's gone away for the week." Not knowing much about colorblindness, I went on YouTube, where I get much of my information, and I watched colorblind people put on glasses that allow them to see color, and watch their faces light up with excitement. Have you ever seen those videos? Can you imagine seeing the full range of colors for the very first time, realizing that everything that you had been missing? Wouldn't that be wonderful? I experienced another kind of color blindness last week. I was working in our yard when a man out for a walk stopped to tell me that I was the most racist person in our neighborhood. While I'm sure I harbor unconscious racist thoughts, because don't we all, I'm fairly confident I'm not the most racist person in our neighborhood. I asked him why he thought I was racist, and he pointed to a sign on our front yard that reads, "No matter what color you are, no matter where you are from, no matter what you believe, we're glad you are our neighbor." He said, "You're always focusing on race, so that makes you a racist. I don't see color." I've heard other people say that they don't see color. I know why people say that. I've said it myself. We want others to think we're not racist, so we claim to be colorblind, as if being unaware of someone's race is morally superior. But let's be honest, not noticing someone's color is impossible. We are acutely aware of color, all of us. And based on the color of others, we moderate our behavior, sometimes in negative, hurtful ways, and sometimes in positive, helpful ways. But we all see color. To claim we don't is a lie. It's like saying we don't see gender, or we don't see age or appearance. Of course we do. It's okay to see all of those things. It's not okay to treat people poorly because of them. Years ago, I read a story about the racial innocence of children. A bigoted man was upset to learn his white child had befriended a black child at school. So he asked his child, "What color is your friend?" The child said, "I don't remember. I'll look tomorrow and see." When I first heard that story, I thought it was a wonderful little story. Now I just think it's a story someone made up. Children see color, just like adults do. But when kids see color, they don't have a lifetime of accumulated prejudices clouding their perceptions of race and color. When we say we don't see color, we are claiming we don't make judgments based on someone's race. But we do. We all make assumptions, conscious or unconscious, about people of other races. If I say that I don't see color, then I will never see the need to carefully examine my assumptions and biases. But aren't they exactly what must be seen, the conscious and unconscious biases that cloud and corrupt our souls? When we don't see color, we also won't see injustice or discrimination. Remember what it means to not see something? It means that we're blind to something. In this instance, it means that we're blind to the reality of a racist world. If we do not see that toxic reality, if we do not approach it with eyes wide open, fully aware of its presence, we cannot fix it. If you've ever noticed the statue of Lady Justice, you'll notice that in her left hand she holds the scales of justice upon which she measures the strengths and weaknesses of a case. In her right hand, she holds a sword, defending the swift and final nature of justice. Around her eyes, there is a blindfold, symbolizing impartiality. But I think Lady Justice should wear a magnifying glass, so she might more thoroughly examine the entirety of a case and might better comprehend the nuances we often miss that are so imperative to justice. It is said that God knows the number of hairs on our heads, which means that God is fully aware, fully cognizant of every distinction and degree of humanity. While that ultimate knowing might be unattainable for us, full awareness, with eyes wide open, is something towards which we should all aspire. I wish correcting our colorblindness were as easy as putting on glasses, but it isn't. It requires the careful and rigorous examination of our hearts, our minds, and our motives. When I went to my friend to apologize for joking about his mismatched clothing, he told me something that I have never forgotten. That being colorblind is not a gift, but a hindrance, a handicap. Friends, see color. Put on the spiritual glasses needed to fully appreciate and affirm the full spectrum of God's creation. Put on the moral glasses needed to fully recognize the toxicity of racism and our complicity in it. Do not be blind to that which God is calling you to see. May it be so. Will you join me in the closing prayer? This prayer comes from Reverend Liz Crumlish and was posted on the Church of Scotland's Starter for Sunday website. There is no part of life you do not touch, O God, infusing your rich fragrance, gritty and real, getting in underneath the surface, drawing out and lifting up, winding love around until defenses are lowered, barriers broken down, and the power of your love reveals the beauty you intended for all your children. May our actions be faithful to your love, to the richness you bring to all life, and to the abundance you share, setting the scene for us to share too. Help us to bring light into the darkness of life, spreading hope for a better world, a world where justice is made real by your children living together in harmony. Help us to bring salt into the blandness of life, encouraging vitality and joy in living in a world that dares to hope for the future that you promise, where all your children will know themselves as loved and valued and treasured. Amen. Thank you for being with us today. A reminder that all of our services are archived on our YouTube channel, accessible through St. Andrew's Church website. They are also shown with a 1-week delay on Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. on Cable 14 TV. Blessings to you all in the week ahead. May the grace of Jesus, the love of God, and the guidance of the Spirit be with you this day and always. Go now in peace.